Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to a special preview of Outward. Outward is about to release the 26th of March, available on Steam, Xbox, PS4 and the Epic Game Store. What is Outward? Outward is a huge RPG that you can play co-op and split screen. It's not just online, you will be able to play good old fashioned split screen with a friend. More than just being a role playing game though, it has a huge amount of survival in it. It really wasn't on my radar as I've seen some gameplay clips and I thought it was just a sort of Witcher clone, maybe a little bit of Dark Souls. It turns out Outward has much more to do with survival than any of the other games I've just mentioned. So it's definitely got my interest, being mostly a survival games channel. Outward is developed by a very unique different studio called ninedot. This will be really their biggest game to date, a huge undertaking judging by their past history. Only making a couple of very tiny indie focused games way back in 2014 and 2012. This really will be their huge big first project. Their focus is on good gameplay and good structure and telling a story. It's fair to say, looking at the footage of Outward, you may look at it and see it's maybe a bit dated, but that doesn't mean it won't be a fantastic game. Everything I'm seeing says it's got a varied selection of quests, a good story and just lots of side missions that you can take part in a huge open world. You're going to need to do all the usual things you would do in a survival game: eat, drink, sleep and prepare properly. Hence why I have compared it to The Witcher, particularly the first Witcher games, where often you would have to prepare for battles beforehand. It has a real focus on casting spells as well as how you approach the enemies. That's why also it's been compared to Dark Souls, because maybe the difficulty and the unique nature of taking on enemies. Another unique system is the legacy system, where you will not just simply die and respawn. When you die, you'll pass along your skills to the next generation. You can even get to the point where you will retire and you will pass along your skills and your tech and your gear over to a brand new character. The world is filled with dynamic quests. We've heard this line before about radiance, but this is really true. The world goes on without you. If you're not there to save someone, then that person probably will be killed by that creature. Another really unique aspect is the way it plays out. You won't simply just be killed by some bandits. Maybe you'll actually waken up and you'll be kidnapped by them. Maybe you'll be put into the woods and you'll have to go and find your belongings, or maybe you've been put into prison. It really tries and focuses on the what if and what happens instead of the standard die and repeat. There is no gating, there is no areas where it will say to you cannot go and explore. The whole world is open to you from the very beginning. It's up to you how you negotiate the world. Just bearing in mind that survival is a big element. From boiling water and cooking and preparing food correctly, these are some of the things you're going to need to get a hold of if you really want to be good at exploring the world of Outward. Some people really focus on how much time you can get into a game. We've all seen the stats regarding The Witcher 3 and Red Dead Redemption. The developers have said you can expect around 40 to 80 hours at a fairly moderate pace. You can play up to 2 players at a time. As I said earlier, that can be co-op, that can be split screen, or it can be online friends. It does ask you to keep replaying it. There are factions and you can't join each faction with the same character. So every time you've gone through one faction storyline, if you want to try the next one, you would have to create a new character. The world that you're going to be exploring is called Uriah. There's going to be 3 factions: the Blue Chamber Collective, the Heroic Kingdoms of Levant and the Holy Missions of Elat. It's completely drop in, drop out. You won't lose any progress. Players will be able to help you, and as long as they stay in the same sort of area, you will progress together. There is no matchmaking though, it's all about just dropping in on a friend. The enemies and creatures that you encounter will become more difficult if there are 2 of you, and you may find that you come across areas that have more enemies. There is a character creation kit, but it's pretty bog standard. Don't expect it to be too in depth. There's 8 available skill trees with enough skill points to max out at least 3 of these during one save playthrough. Magic does play a big part. You're going to have to think about what your spell casting is going to do and what it takes out of you. You also have to unlock lots of your skills as you progress through the game. Each skill or each discipline has lots of different attacks and lots of different passive buffs. So basically you've got things like a chakram attack, which basically throws this disc out in front of you, dealing quite high damage. If you like using a bow, you've got things like sniper shot, which means you'll wind it up much stronger, but it will give you a much better hit. And then we've got another one called Spellblade Awakening, which increases your maximum health, stamina and mana by 15 skill points. Lots of these you're going to have to actually buy and learn, and that's how you can progress and get these skills in the game. Another one I really like the sound of is the Predator Leap. You'll need a good melee weapon and you'll need a rage boon for this, but jumping attack that creates a shockwave when you land, dealing lots of high impact damage. It's clear Outward's got a very big skill tree and lots of different variety in its attacks and its buffs, and basically there's disciplines and skills how you choose to play. And I think that's going to be really crucial for the replayability. Are you going to go down the path of being a brute? Are you going to try being a complete sorcerer? The character builds are going to be so important for this game, and I think that's where I might actually enjoy making a lot of videos. Other tropes that you've come to expect from RPGs like enchanting, maybe being a necromancer, are all going to be available at some point, with some of these buffs and bonuses only lasting a little while and some of them being permanent. Also, to help you along, you're going to be able to cook, you're going to be able to harvest, hunt, and you're going to be able to mine resources and special ores. You won't necessarily be growing anything though, so if you're trying to play this like Stardew Valley, you may be a bit disappointed. It is a third person only game, and there are no mounts and there are no creatures that you can ride or tame other than some maybe cosmetic pets. You can craft your weapons and your armors to your heart's content, but it doesn't necessarily have full customization. You won't be crafting yourself a full-blooded red sword. It's more about what buffs and bonuses you can put on each sword. There are NPCs obviously, as there are factions and there are friendlies. So you can broker friendships with people, but you won't necessarily be able to romance some people if that's what you're kind of hoping to get out of the game. It's really a truly unique experience. The more I've read up on it, the more I've delved into Outward, I'm seeing something that's brought back a few mechanics from other games that maybe weren't explored fully. If you ever got arrested by either guards in Skyrim or any of the similar games, you would have noticed you've been brought to one of the keeps and put inside a prison. Normally, if you had lockpicking skill high enough, you could maybe escape, or you could buy your freedom with some gold. Well, Outward takes that one step further. As I said, you may find yourself coming into situations where you're defeated and you may have been kidnapped, you may have been whisked away to another location, or who knows, maybe you would have been saved by a passerby. You don't simply die, well, not in every instance. Backpacks and carrying your equipment's pretty important. You are going to have to make sure your weight and management inventory. So basically having to drop your backpack a lot before going into an encounter or a battle. This might seem a little bit too old school for some, or in fact maybe just a little bit backwards, but it adds to the story. It adds that realistic nature to the game, and I think that's what the developers are really trying to go for. A fantastic world filled with lots of different tile creatures, lots of quests, missions, really fully open, but also the consequences that come with that. You haven't got a magical bag that carries 1 billion items. It will slow you down depending on what you're carrying and wearing, and so you have to manage that and act accordingly. There's a wide variety of enemies and creatures, from dinosaurs like stegosauruses to all sorts of things like mantises, as well as NPC and human enemies. You'll get buffs and bonuses for making sure you're well fed or for maximising certain stats, but likewise they also may have impacts on your others. Really truly does feel like it's a full RPG sandbox experience. And that added flavour, the added survival elements that I think a lot of you guys, my subs, are going to enjoy, I think that's really going to appeal to you. It may not appeal to everyone, and it doesn't look like there's some sort of arcade mode or easy mode. It is going to be a challenging game. As far as I know, the devs have no plans to add mod support in the future though. It looks like this is really an experience they've crafted and to just push out there in the world and see what the reaction is, and then maybe move on to their next game or their next project. And there are no plans to add extra players. You will only be able to play with 1 to 2 players rather than 3 or 4. So yes, it does look a little bit old school. Maybe the graphics aren't on par with the open worlds that you may have explored recently like Red Dead, or some of the graphic fidelity of games like God of War. But nevertheless, I still think this has got something quite special. The worlds look humongous, they literally look like they're filled with quite exotic creatures, and I'm hoping the storylines are going to live up to it. I'll be hoping to get a key and show you some gameplay, tutorials and guides. I think if you like games like Dark Souls and games like The Witcher and Skyrim, you're going to like this, but you must be prepared to accept the survival elements part of Outward's nature. The plus side, it seems pretty unique and it's harkening back to the old days of proper role-playing games where you can choose your character, level up, get different types of weapons and armors and really find them useful for different scenarios in the world. It's got that survival element which some people are really going to love. It looks like it's got a wide, huge world to explore and quite varied enemies. And it's going to take a lot of replayability to master a lot of these and get maybe the full experience out of the game. The negative sides could be that the world isn't filled enough with AI, maybe the AI doesn't work as intended, and maybe that replayability might not be there completely if you've gone around the world once. How many times have you pretty much gone around the whole of Skyrim? Some people play these games for thousands of hours, other people will only do it once. I guess it's all in that nature. I really also hope that like I said, the old school nature of the graphics maybe not being up there with some of the other games. Not every game can be. I just think it definitely looks certainly a bit of a lower grade than maybe what people are used to seeing on the PS4 and the Xbox One recently. But that is all footage from the last few months. Obviously the game has undergone more fixing and prioritization, but the game devs seem very focused on making a game playable rather than making it just look pretty. Let me know what you think about Outward if you've seen any trailers or seen other YouTubers play it. I'll be playing this on the Xbox hopefully, so I'm quite looking forward to jumping into a good RPG. It's been a while since I've played one. Let me know what you're thinking about Outward. If you are buying this on the Epic Games Store, pop my link. The creator code will be in the description box down below. It's basically Jade-plays-games. Helps the channel out. Otherwise, I look forward to playing this with you. Maybe you can jump in and we can explore the world of Aria together. Also, make sure you're liking this video if you found it useful, and let's go and explore Outward together.